Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode here on the Do Something podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Alejandro Paredes.
And I'm Camden McFarland.
And we're ready to keep the episodes going. And it's been like a month since we posted our last episode, but we've been enjoying our summers, took like a month break, getting ready for the school year that's starting up really soon. And that's kind of what this episode's about. So in this episode, we wanted to talk about as the school year starting, how to set goals and also clear goals so that you're able to accomplish them all throughout the semester. And we're also going to be talking about a new concept that we kind of created that helps us create new goals and actually achieve them fairly quickly. And so to start off, let's think about this. Let's say you're in a room and you see a target and you have your bow. And the goal is to take your bow and arrow and shoot it directly at the target and get a bullseye. And if you actually can see, if the room's well lit and everything, you can see everything clearly, it's going to be pretty easy to shoot those arrows and hit the target, at least somewhere on the target. Maybe not a bullseye, but at least you know where you're aiming at. Now think about the same scenario in the same room, but let's say the lights are turned off completely. Maybe there isn't even a target. Maybe you don't even know if there is a target available, but you still have your bow and arrow and you just aimlessly, blindlessly just keep on shooting your arrow after arrow after arrow. You will never know if you actually hit the target or not. So the reason I kind of say like this analogy is because you have to kind of define your success or define where you're going at. For example, like that target needs to be your goal. And with that arrow, you have to know what you're shooting at and define that so that you're able to constantly hit the bullseye or at least hit the target or be around there. Because if you're just aimlessly like making goals and shooting your arrows, you might just get lost on the way. You might not even be accomplishing anything. It just feels like you're accomplishing stuff. So that's why I think it's very important to define your success, define what your target is so that you can clearly like get ready and shoot your arrow and not miss, and you know exactly what you're shooting for. So I think it's very important to define your success and define what success means to you, or define your goals. And that will definitely, because that will give you like a clear path as to where you want to be and where you're going to.
And another aspect of that metaphor is it's really important to also understand where you're at, like how far away you are from the target. That's going to really help you understand what you need to do to hit the bullseye and to get where you're going. And we covered this topic a while back about knowing yourself and understanding yourself. But as Alejandro and I were talking about it this summer, trying to develop this idea, we came to the conclusion that understanding yourself stems primarily from your experiences, your connections with others, your deep talks, and all those almost act as a mirror. We couldn't really put our finger on it, how we would have these big discussions talking about really interesting things. But at the end of the day, I'll leave the conversation knowing so much more about myself. And we were confused, kind of like trying to think through why that happened. Well, let's say you're sitting down and you're talking about like space. How often do you sit and think about space? Probably not all that often. And so when you're sitting having this discussion with someone else, as you're like thinking of what to say, you're actually coming up with your own thoughts on the matter. And then you get to actually understand yourself even more. And so with that said, we think that, back to the metaphor, it's really important to have these deep connections, these experiences in order to understand where you are so that you know where your goals are and how to get there.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's so valuable, especially now that the school year is starting. It's such a great time to kind of put that into action, because whether you're starting in high school still or you're in college or maybe even older, this is like a great time of year to meet new people, make new friends, and just have a lot of discussions with a lot of new people. And so how many times you're going to be meeting a lot of new people with different interests, with different hobbies that are just maybe very different from you. And that's, in my opinion, should be very exciting, because when you find these different type of people, you're able to kind of like unlock a new door to their world and how their viewpoint on the world and everything. And it's very interesting to listen to them and what they have to say, and it might give you a new perspective on everything else. And from there, you might be thinking to yourself, I never thought about that before. Maybe this does apply to me, or I haven't thought about that before. Maybe I'll look into it or something like that. So I think it's very important to like kind of bounce off those ideas, and like you learn a little bit more about yourself through those experiences, and those experiences that we hope that you have soon, just by meeting new people. And
yeah, and to add to that, this phrase might seem kind of dumb, but you've only ever experienced your life. And so it's important to have these experiences with other people so you can also understand your own thoughts on things, but then also understand where other people are coming from. Because in order to have, in my opinion, in order to have like a full idea of who you are and who you want to be, you have to understand more than just your experiences. You have to know about other experiences and other things people have gone through so that you can make kind of more objective decisions on what you think is right and what you think is good for yourself. So over summer, Alejandro and I had some time to sit and discuss some more aspects of our message. And our 1% message, we both really love and are still doing that, but we thought of this bigger overarching message that fits right in with that. And what a better way to share this with you by taking you through this metaphor that we have here. Imagine you are in the middle of a road in a crowded city. You are excited to make it to your destination, but you have no idea where you are. You only know that your destination is somewhere to the north of the city. Your first step is to try to figure out where you are in the city. You see someone walking by and ask for directions, and he pointed you down the road. You can now start walking in the right direction. Since you only know the general idea of where you are going, you might make some wrong turns. But if you keep walking around, you will find it. Once you have found your destination, you may realize that it was fun trying to find it. But once you are there, it is kind of boring. So you decide to go to a new location. So this metaphor is basically about the journey of making goals. And we kind of break it down into 3 different parts. We'll break it down into A, the road, and B, which I'll explain. So A is the idea of where you are at in the city. You don't know where you're at in the city. You're trying to understand yourself so you can then in turn know where you want to go, which is B, your destination. But even then, you don't even really know where your destination is. You don't even really exactly know what your goals are going to look like once you're there. And along the way, the steps you take to get there in the right direction are 1%. That's the road. So each step is like doing a 1% and getting just that much closer to your goal.
so for example, let's say you understand A. So like you understand where you are right now, and you clearly define B. So you know exactly where you're going. Either way, with that road, it might take turns. It might not be exactly straight, like a straight line. So I think it's also very important to define what that road is. Like define the things in your life and give them value pretty much, because and after that, then you will kind of start seeing how like the road builds, and it'll start straightening out instead of like kind of curving and everything. Because if you know where you are right now, you know where you're going, there's no fog in the way. There's nothing blocking your way. You kind of get like that like tunnel vision between what you're trying to do and stuff. So what you're trying to get done. So I think it's also very important to also figure out how everything else in your life kind of works together to get you to that second destination that you're looking for.
And a few more subtle parts about that metaphor that may have gone unseen is the idea that you can ask for help. Like the guy in this, or girl in this metaphor, asks someone for directions and for some help. So at the end of the day, it's not like you're completely on your own on this. And then even another aspect is, if you notice at the beginning of the metaphor, the character in the city was excited to get to the destination, but at the end of the day, once they got there, they thought it was kind of boring. And that's kind of just to show, I feel like that's kind of just human nature for the fact that we set goals, and once we reach them, there's more goals, there's more aspirations. So it's kind of like a never-ending cycle is what that part's supposed to represent. And then lastly, something I just really want to hit home to make sure everyone understands is like the biggest part of this whole metaphor is you need to understand where you're at to understand where you're going. That's the biggest part of this metaphor, is that you're in the middle of the city and you can't start walking random directions and wandering and expect to make it where you're trying to go. You need to actually understand where you are at in your life in order to reach any goals that you set for yourself. So that's probably the biggest part about this metaphor that I just wanted to make sure everyone caught. Sorry guys to hit y'all with another metaphor, but we just think that these metaphors are very helpful to understand these kind of complex topics. But this metaphor is the idea that fixing yourself is kind of like fixing a broken car. You can kick it, it probably won't start. But what you really need to do is you need to check the gas, you need to check the battery, you need to check the engine, you need to make sure all these little pieces that could actually affect the car are actually working to kind of problem solve. And just like that, you need to do that also with yourself. You need to kind of psychoanalyze yourself and see, okay, I'm feeling bad, but why is that? And like really dig into the actual problem. And then once you actually know the problem, then you can fix it. So that's why, again, it's really important to understand yourself to see where you need to go. Like if you're not happy with where you're at, understand why that is, and then you can make a change. Then you can make a change to reach that new goal of yours. And another aspect of this metaphor is that your car needs these like yearly whatever checkups to make sure that everything's running smoothly. And just like that, like we all need to do that with ourselves. We need to constantly kind of like revisit, okay, who are we? Because we are constantly changing and things are falling apart here and there. And so we need to kind of understand how that is so we can change.
Yeah. And also when we were talking about this analogy, we were also talking about what if you're fine? What if your car has absolutely no problems? I don't think you need to break down in order to analyze what's wrong with your car as first say. It's like, what if you're fine? Well, like Camden said, that's why you do have those yearly or monthly checkups. So I think it should, even if you're fine and you think if you're going on the right direction, you still need to be checking to make sure that maybe the oil isn't going to go low, or you're still refueling your car with gasoline, So you're still doing those like weekly or monthly checkups to make sure that you are still going to be okay. And I think that's very important.
And at the end of the day, if you're doing well, also try to understand why that is. It's important to also understand why things are going well, just as much as you need to understand why things are going bad. Yeah. Because if you know why things are going well, then you can make that happen more often or put yourself in better situations. So that's also really important.
Yeah, see if your car is available for like an upgrade or something. Okay, so we hit you guys with a bunch of analogies, a bunch of different stories and metaphors and everything. I really hope everything makes sense. But we want to go ahead and concise everything and just what we want you guys to walk away with. So this is the 3 main things we want you to walk away with after listening to this episode. Number 1 is to clearly define your targets or goals in life so you're not aimlessly shooting in the dark. Number 2 is to understand where you're at in order to know where you're going.
And number 3 is to keep checking in on yourself, just like you would a friend or even a car.
Now we're going to go into our 1%. And if you're not familiar with what 1% are, it's basically small actions towards an obtainable goal. And so for this month, what my 1% is going to be is, now that the school year is starting up, a lot of people are now beginning to be on campus and everything. My goal for this next couple months is going to be at least trying to meet one person new every single day and see if we have something in common or something that I can share with them or they can share with me, and just really exploring different viewpoints, many different viewpoints, because I find myself, I learn a lot through knowing others and knowing where they come from and who they are and understanding them. So that's going to be my 1% for this month.
And for my 1% this month, what I'm going to be doing is every single day, I'm going to think about a character trait or an aspect of someone that I appreciated so that I can kind of understand myself, meaning like what I actually like from people, and then try to enact that myself.
And on this podcast, we make it very easy for you to get started on your 1% as well. So if you're watching this video, go ahead and pause the screen so that you can read these questions. Or if you're listening to this, go ahead and listen to this. So I hope you were able to go ahead and think about those questions and get started on your 1% journey. And if you completed those questions, go ahead and drop it in the comments below. We love helping other people reach their goals and lifting other people up. This is what this community is all about. So go ahead and drop that in the comments. And from there, thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Make sure to follow us on Instagram. Also follow us on or subscribe to us on YouTube. We're really trying to hit 100 subscribers soon. And we hope you enjoyed this podcast. And don't forget to
Do something. Peace.